Welcome to the Supply Chain Pioneers podcast, where we highlight industry leaders on the forefront of innovation and technology in planning, procurement, and logistics. Hosted by your supply chain pro to know, Ulf Venn.
Supply Chain Pioneers is powered by Everstream Analytics. Everstream gives you the predictive insights and analytics to make your supply chain faster, smarter, safer, and leaner. Go to everstream.ai to book your demo today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Supply Chain Pioneers. And today I have with me Klaus Dohrmann, who is a vice president at DHL, the global head of innovation and trend research, also known as the Godfather of innovation for DHL. Welcome, Klaus.
Thanks for this nice introduction. Thanks for having me, Ulf.
Of course. No, it's a pleasure for me personally. We've been together for such a long time in the same office, drinking coffee every day. So this is going to be a great session. I really look forward to this. So, Klaus, I know you. It would be great if everybody else can get to know you a little bit before we dive into the weeds of your career. So maybe introduce yourself a little bit.
Sure, a pleasure. So I'm Klaus Dohrmann. I'm leading innovation and trend research for DHL globally. I've been with the company now for 16 years, amazingly 16 years. Back in the days, I started in corporate strategy and then made my way into the innovation center. For Europe in Germany, this is also where I'm based, close to our headquarters, but not in our headquarters.
And that's essentially where you are right now, but we're going through the journey of where you have been in the past. And I actually want to start where everything is going to start, which is like, how did you join the world of supply chain management initially? It wasn't DHL.
It wasn't DHL, and there wasn't a big plan behind that. The short answer would be by accident. It was actually, I was consulting in retail. I never had logistics touch points. I have a banking and finance background from university. And it was ultimately that I met someone in logistics that then became my boss. So basically, I did not pick the company, and I also did not pick logistics, but I picked the boss. And this is then when it ended up in strategy and M&A, with what is now as a competitor.
As you said, you moved from consulting to strategy, and then there you were focused on the forwarding world and M&As and customers and so on and so forth. So what for you as a strategy expert is the winning strategy to make strategy successful?
If I only knew, Ulf, I do not have a secret sauce. For sure, I do not have a secret sauce for that. I think everything that is needed is written in strategy books, right? It has a lot to do with knowing your customers, knowing the market environment, knowing your company, knowing what's possible, what's not. And then it's goal setting, developing a plan, following up, communicating about it, stakeholder management. So yeah, there's no secret sauce, but I think sometimes this is being forgotten a bit. Like everybody knows, but then doing it, implementing all of this, maybe the bigger challenge than putting something on paper.
And as you said, stakeholder management strategy is a lot about communication, right? And you have done strategic moves or implement new strategies for various companies. And also, for instance, you led the go-to-market strategy for the sector approach within DHL. So being in these big companies, strategic big moves are often not that easy to really realize. So what is the way you get the masses moving, right? How do you get them hyped for the topic? How do you get your stakeholders doing what they should do in order to make the strategy win?
If I start with the second part of that question, I think in generally speaking, exciting people about something requires your own excitement about the topic. And then it just comes across with your level of involvement, the way you communicate, you talk about it. You can not only hear it from the words, you can see it in the eyes. Being more specific on implementing like these go-to-market strategies, I did for sector development, how we call it. I think what helps a lot is that actually, since I joined back in 2008, DHL has the same established strategic framework, and this has been not significantly changed over the years. This framework of basically a stakeholder approach, looking after and caring about your customers, your employees, the financial investors as well. And having that framework on top of the company makes it rather easy to break that down to this particular area of responsibility. In this case, it was one sector out of many, but using that framework, applying that logic, and then of course applying this to this very specific area helped me a lot. And so setting that frame or applying that frame was one element of that. And the other one is that I was very lucky to have, I think, the right allies around me, being boss, peers, teams, and so on and so forth, that ultimately all stood behind these strategies and when it came to implementing that. So there's a bit of a theoretical part and there's a bit of a human part in that.
I personally don't think that was all luck that you had people that were willing to follow you. Are there maybe, do you remember a pivotal moment where you were able to really convince somebody on something where there might have been some objections, and the way you do it? Because I think you're good in approaching people and talk logically about things. So maybe that's something that we might want to point out here, frankly.
Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. A good question to reflect a bit. Very specifically, I remember when we set up the sector development, how we called it. There was a campaign of different elements, and we had everything on paper because it has been done for other areas before. Everything was on paper. I think the decisive moment for many to really buy into this was when we brought it to life. I remember very well, we did the first customer conference back in the days, and then people could feel that this logic works, this logic of, in this case, bringing together customers and DHL experts and exchanging and also fostering exchange between customers. That was one essential part of that go-to-market strategy for us to learn from customers. So that moment when we brought that to life, that moment where these PowerPoint slides turned into real life things that happened, that was, and I even remember where that was actually. I remember there was a decisive moment, but I haven't reflected on that for quite a while. So thanks for triggering this.
Yeah, of course. It's my pleasure. Good. We're actually already at the topic because we talked about conferences, talking to customers, engaging with customers. So you have done that for a while from a sector perspective, from strategy to sector perspective, and then you moved into innovation. So DHL obviously wants to move forward in innovation, and you're now at the heart of the world of innovation. DHL obviously has a clear strategy on innovation. What do you think is unique on the approach that you drive together with the whole DHL company on innovation, also in comparison to maybe the wider logistics market?
There are many places in DHL where innovation is happening, right? And there's no number to that, but for the most part, innovation is happening very close to the core of the business, big and small, sometimes every day for process improvements, and sometimes, the bigger picture with new business models and what have you, so many different places. I think the unique approach that DHL took many years ago is that we also set up, next to this innovation at the core, we set up central places to also drive innovation, and that's the DHL Innovation Centers. The first one, you know that very well, Ulf, there was established in Germany, and in the meantime, this network has grown to 4 centers in Chicago, in Singapore, and in Dubai. And what we do there is we use these centers first and foremost as platforms to engage with stakeholders. Stakeholder topic coming up again. That's customers for the most part, that's colleagues, that's technology partners, that might be academic partners. So bringing all of them together to create, well, in simple words, new things, which is innovation. And I think the unique approach there is that this is not a research and development center. There's no coding being done, but this is about applying what we see on the supply side for what we need on the demand side. And the demand side is customers and colleagues in operations. And then the other unique part, I think, here is that this whole innovation, this global innovation unit is embedded in our key account and sector management organization. So very close to the big global companies that are our customers. And there are so many ways of jointly leveraging that relationship that customer-supplier relationship, which quite often even goes both ways, leveraging them. So again, the unique part here is I think we have that platform with the innovation center networks where we can listen to customers and we can trigger these strategic conversations and not so much get lost in the nitty-gritty technical details of maybe a solution that needs to be solved.
Totally understand. And as part of the work in the innovation centers, you're also gathering what is called the DHL Trend Radar. I think one of the most downloaded assets DHL probably has. Every year you cover a lot of trends. It would be great if you first can explain maybe what the Trend Radar is, but then also it would be great to get your personal top 3 trends for the future.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity. That ties, I think, quite nicely in what I explained before on the approach from innovation and us listening to customers and listening to stakeholders. So every other year, we are documenting all of this, everything we learn and we hear in the logistics trend radar. And of course, we add our own research, but also academic research to that. And then the logistics trend radar is outlining, as it stands today, 40 trends that we see most impactful for logistics. And I think it's important to understand, not for logistics service providers like DHL, but for the logistics function also in our customer base. So it outlines these trends. We are describing in very detail what these trends are all about, how we see them developing. We're talking a lot about use cases in logistics by trend because we want to make it tangible. And having all this documented gives us the opportunity and also our customers to use the logistics trend radar as a tool to sort things, to learn about these trends, and then to draw their own conclusions. So of course, we love to engage with our customers on the radar as a tool and discussing important and even different views on these things. But we also know for a fact that there are many entities out there using the radar on their own, again, as a tool, not as a book, for their benefits. And then your question was on the top 3 trends. That might be the toughest one today. As I mentioned, we have 40 trends on the radar, and based on my job description, I have to be excited about all 40 trends. But okay, let me pick 3. Important to understand, there are 2 types of trends we look into with a trend radar. There's what we call the left-hand side. What is the left-hand side is social and business trends, and the right-hand side is technology trends. So on the left-hand side, and my teams know them very well, the trend of supply chain diversification is my favorite trend because it's so strategic, it's so impactful, it comes in so many different shapes and forms, and it's really, as even the name says, it's really changing supply chains significantly. We can go into detail, and you know that very, very well as well. And then on the technology side, of course, there's a lot to be excited about and a lot to be hyped. And there's no way around AI these days. We cover AI in multiple trends. The one I would pick here is computer vision AI. So using cameras, using video or photo footage to generate data from that, and the AI obviously can do a lot in helping us generating the right data. So I take computer vision, and then also based on like private interest, I would take electrification of vehicles. I did my PhD on last mile electrification a couple of years ago, still close to my heart, although I must say there's so much, especially in DHL, that has been done already. It's not ended yet, but there has been done already. There's not that much innovation in there anymore, but it's an important trend.
There's still innovation within that by maybe changes in batteries, for instance, that are reshaping every day. I just got a new car. It goes 600 kilometers on a battery. I'm very impressed, actually. That is a life-changing development.
I can relate to that, yes.
Better than before. 380 was what I had before. That was a little bit not.
Okay.
Yeah.
So range anxiety is something you are aware of, and I think there was even the word of the year in Norway, like even 15 years ago, which also tells how advanced they were. Yeah, range anxiety is something you don't want to have.
I just want to give a quick shout out here because that was a good fun fact. I would recommend everybody here to follow Klaus Dohrmann on LinkedIn because he has the best Friday fun facts for everybody. It's great. I don't know why you started that, by the way.
I don't know either. In a way, it was like, of course, with my job and also based on my curiosity, and I'm reading a lot. I'm getting a lot of these newsletters and reading about research. And then I found that idea of publishing this on a regular basis and then on a Friday for Friday Facts, I found that's like compelling. And it became part of my daily routine, more or less. I read something, and if I find it worthwhile to share it, I schedule it on LinkedIn, and then you'll see it as a Friday Fact every Friday at 1 p.m. CET.
Yeah, it's great. But yeah, let's go on with innovation from facts to innovation again, which is the same, right? We need to innovate in order to stay relevant. Are there any surprising sources on inspiration when you look for new things that could maybe shape the world of innovation and the world of supply chain innovation?
Yeah, good one. Also, yeah, I don't have a secret source, unfortunately. I probably wouldn't share it anyways then if I had it. I think being in logistics and looking into logistics innovation, I think the surprising sources we find are outside of logistics. And this is also a value as an innovation team. What we can bring to the table is look for technologies or look into other sectors, other industries, and how these technologies are being applied, and then make that transfer of how can this be applied in logistics. And of course, it needs to be tweaked and shaped, but we can help with that. We do a lot of this with startups. But unfortunately, fortunately, it is not that there are 10,000s of startups out there purely looking into logistics. There are other attractive sectors, technology or life sciences or manufacturing and so on and so forth, where also a lot of venture capital goes into. So these surprising sources then can be found in other industries, and that's what we're also doing.
Let's look in the past, because innovation is always about the future. So let's look back a little bit. I thought that's a good theme as well. What were innovations where you were surprised about that they had such a profound impact on the supply chain business? And what were some innovations that maybe you thought this is going to be the next thing within 1 or 2 years, and then until now they haven't really realized yet as being the big breakthrough innovation?
And that's a tough one, because when you do foresight, of course, you do not want to check in hindsight how things work out. The one thing I underestimated, not in terms of impact, but in terms of timing, was the whole robotics piece. And you've seen this growing in the Innovation Center a couple of years ago. It started very small, and also due to the fact that, what I said before, it was not that there was so much innovation going into logistics robotics. Robotics has been around for decades, but dedicated to logistics, we have not seen this. I think this is a topic that picked up so rapidly. And when you look at the numbers of AMRs running around in DHL warehouses, that's thousands already. And this only happened in the last 5 years or so, I would say. And we still see this developing. So there's certain areas where this is just common business practice. So it's not so much about the impact, but the speed in which it develops was really overwhelming to me, at least in certain areas, and in particular when it comes to robotics within a warehouse or automation within a warehouse. And then the other part of your question was, is there anything that was maybe a bit overhyped? The one trend I would mention here is actually a trend that we have removed now from the logistics trend radar. We are only looking into a 10-year time frame. So we're looking at trends that we see materializing in the next 10 years. And the one we removed for that reason, for not really developing, was quantum computing. I remember it was maybe 2-3 years ago, there's a lot of hype about this, especially when it comes to logistics. Everybody was talking about the traveling salesman problem, route optimization, and computing power coming from quantum really making a difference there. We have not seen that anticipated development in that area, at least not for logistics, because we have not seen these use cases materializing. So it's not a lack of technology. It's not a problem of quantum not working, but in particular, applying then quantum to these specific use cases in logistics that were mentioned and are still mentioned in academia, we have not seen that development. So maybe it was a bit overhyped, at least for logistics. Let's see. We have seen trends making a comeback to the trend radar, and might be one, but at this point, there's not this urgent need for this particular application.
Actually interesting. I haven't thought of that, but that's interesting. Okay, so now we're getting closer to the end here. We talked about your expertise in strategy. We talked about your expertise in innovation and also working with customers and stakeholder management. Let's combine all of that one more time, because we talked a lot about how you work together with customers and innovation, how you bring innovation to them. But in this work, you also work a lot with startups and suppliers for these customers. And often they come to you in a very critical stage where they have developed a product and find customers together with you, which obviously is a win on both sides. But what do you think are some of maybe some strategic failures startups make in this phase where they have already a product and trying to get that to market, that really starts limiting their overall growth potential from your point of view, as you see that from the outside a little bit?
Yeah, let me start with saying we see so many startups doing a great job in all of this and being ready, and also the way they convey their messages and the way they look at us as a potential customer. So it's not that we see that like failure like every day. One part, I guess, is what was implied in your question is that startups developing a product and then trying to bring that to market, bring that to customers. And I would argue that for some, this might be already too late. So involving the customer already in this product development, maybe even in the ideation phase, I think is really crucial, especially, as I said before, the product being developed maybe for some particular market, there's potential in other markets, and then it needs to be adapted. It might be too late. So having that customer in mind or even on board rather early is something that I find important. I think it is tempting for startups that they fall in love with their product. By definition, that's new and it's exciting. And sometimes I would love to see these startups being more in love with the customer rather early in that process, and not only get into this love affair when the product is ready. And I think we can help them from the demand side. And then the other part is also, while startups are really good at creating that excitement and creating that maybe even demand in the market, they need also then to be ready to scale. And especially with big companies like ours, of course, if we take a decision to go for a product, to go for a solution, of course, we need that at scale. And this is not even unique to DHL as a company, right? If these startups want to deal with big companies, they have to be ready to scale. It's also dangerous because they have to find the right moment also in terms of funding and financing, not to overdo it too early. And so I acknowledge it's a balancing act, but my advice would be try to be close to the customer and to these markets you want to go into as early as possible. That helps you shaping the product, but also understanding the size of the demand much better, rather than developing somewhere behind closed doors and then opening the door and saying, here we are, why don't you buy it?
Very good. Very good. Let's go to my favorite question always, frankly, in the podcast, which is the all hobby question. We always have that. So I didn't ask you for your hobbies before the podcast because I already knew. So you are a passionate marathon runner. That is something I think you can probably connect in one way, shape, or form with a strategy, innovation, and supply chain all at the same time. And I would love to get your take on this.
Thanks for bringing that up. It's a dangerous question for a moderator, actually, because I think I could talk for hours about running, and you do not want that. And yes, I do agree. There's a lot one can learn, and also a lot I learned from both sides, business and running. In this case, endurance running. If you look at these topics we discussed at the very beginning, strategy, developing, implementing, and so on and so forth, for me, the endurance running, and maybe I overdo it at some point, but it's pretty much along the same lines, right? Set your goals, develop a plan, have the discipline to follow through that plan, which is not always easy. Running in these weather conditions that we have in November, December in Germany outside, there's no fun. So really follow through that, have the discipline. But also to your point on stakeholders, what helped me also is look for allies, look for people who do the same. That motivates me a lot. Social media helps to connect. That motivates me a lot. And to keep it going, to learn from others how they do it and maybe how you shouldn't. So a lot of similarities. There's probably enough content to write a book about it at one point. Maybe I'll do that sometime.
You actually should do that. And I'm going to promote it here on this podcast, I promise.
Nice, but give me a bit of time to actually do it.
You have written a PhD, so this book should be easy.
No, not sure.
Klaus, we're at the end of the podcast. I want to say thank you so much for being a guest. Again, long anticipated. Thank you so much for doing it and taking the time.
Thanks for having me, Urs. All the best.
Perfect. And with that, everybody who watches or listens or however else you're enjoying this podcast, I want to thank you for your attention. And as always, I want to wish you bye-bye.
This was Supply Chain Pioneers. Thanks for watching, listening, or however you are enjoying this podcast. You can find Supply Chain Pioneers on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all other major podcast players, as well as on YouTube at Ulf Talk Supply Chain. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. See you next time.